Welcome to the tutorial on Autopilot for beginners. In this tutorial, we are going to learn lot many Autopilot features which will be helpful for you to adapt to the new technology around UiPath. In this entire video, you're going to learn a lot of things, starting from getting a demo on using Autopilot to generate apps. You can generate apps using Autopilot feature, very interesting feature. Create an employee onboarding app using Autopilot. Create an app from a form image. I would provide an image and it will create an application for you. Autopilot for UiPath Studio. How do you use the autopilot feature in UiPath Studio? How do you enable, disable? These are more technical steps which you're going to learn. Exercises on autopilot in Studio. Uninstall autopilot for everyone on UiPath Assistant. You will be using the IT ops. There are many technical steps there to learn. I have experimented on many things. You would see them and learn. And then you would have enable and install autopilot for everyone. If you wanted to enable it for your entire org for the employees to use, how you do it? There'll be a lot of interesting learning contents that you would see throughout this video. In the very first exercise, we are going to generate app using autopilot. For the very first exercise, log into cloud.uipath.com and I'm using the community edition. So all the options and the features I'm going to show you, you should be able to have them. I have logged into cloud.uipath.com. After that, you have to do two important checks, the pre-checks. The very first check is see if you can access to apps. Click on apps. Okay, so it's loading. So I can access the apps. The other thing, in a new tab, I wanted to access the data service. These are the two pre-checks required for this demo. So let me write it in a notepad. So the pre-checks are, first you see if you can access apps. The second thing you should check if you can access data service. So you can see I have logged into the data service, and I have also logged into apps. So these are the two things you have to check. In case anyone who cannot open it, what you do, click on this breadcrumb symbol and look for the admin option. Click on this admin option. And in the admin option for your default tenant, select your tenant and you would be able to see something called services. Click on services. And here you see data services enabled. If it is not enabled, it might be gray in color. You can click on this three dot and enable it. Otherwise, here on the top right corner, you might see add services. Click on the button and put a check mark on the data service. That's how you enable the data service. Let's go back to apps. Click on more and click on apps. Okay. Now keep it very simple. So what is this autopilot feature? So autopilot is something which is going to auto generate things for you. For example, I would like to create a student registration form, or I would like to create an employee registration form. Any application or any app that you like to create in the UiPath apps. Now, the best thing is you can use the autopilot feature. Let me show you how it works. Now, for the time being, let's keep it pretty simple. Okay, I'm asking the autopilot to do few things for me. I'll say create a I would say create a employee registration or create a form. I will say, okay, create a form to capture below details. So what are those details? I need name, I need let's say age, I need gender, okay, and nationality. Okay, so these are the four things I want. Now I would provide another instruction that the gender field should show male, female, and others. Full stop. Next, nationality. The nationality field should show all the all the countries of the world in a drop down. Okay, I'm simply saying you create name. So what are the fields I'm trying to get in a form is name, age, gender, nationality. So gender should show male, female, and others, and nationality should show all the country names of the world. So this is what I expecting. Now in the form, you also have few buttons, right? Create two buttons named save, let's say submit and cancel. Okay, cancel. When the user clicks on submit, when the user clicks on submit, what should happen? Submit, the data entered in the fields should be submitted to an entity. So entity is more like a table, like an Excel, imagine as an Excel table where you have name, you have age, gender, nationality. Think these are the columns, and your data should be saved into the entity. This entity comes from the data service. That's why I said you should have data service. I'm going to show you that. Don't worry. So I'm simply saying, the field should be submitted to an entity. Okay. If the end user clicks on cancel button, it should clear the data from the form he had from the form. Okay, so you can define the prompt as better as possible. Simple. So I've kept all of this. If the end user clicks on cancel button, it's okay. Now comes the mandatory fields. Keep the name and you can have phone number, email address, there are many things. So keep the name and nationality field mandatory. Nationality field, FIELD field as mandatory fields. So you can define your prompt as better as you could. Okay, so I'm going to copy this to a notepad. So next thing is you defining the prompt in the autopilot. So this is something prompt I have created. So female, let me change the spelling. Okay, like that you can check your prompt. How better your prompt, the better responses you would get. Okay, so looks everything okay for the time being. So all you are doing is you are entering a prompt into the UiPath apps, and then all I have to do is simply hit on send. Okay, so what form would you like to give a name? Create a form named basic details. Okay, so create a form named basic details. So I've given this prompt. Let me copy this prompt to my notepad so that you can read it quite well. Okay, Control V. So I've created a prompt here. All right, so view, edit. Or let me keep it in this way. How do you wrap the text? Edit, word wrap. Okay, word wrap is already enabled. Okay, fine. All right, so this is the text that you have entered. After you have entered all the text, all you have to do is hit on send. Hit on send. Now what would happen? You would see this autopilot feature in UiPath is generating a layout This can take a while. So it is generating the entire form for you. You don't have to manually do it like before. We used to manually create all the controls, and that is the pain. Imagine you have like 10 fields, you are dragging and dropping, defining the forms. Now all the work is currently done by the autopilot. This is an interesting feature which absolutely going to save a lot of time. Of course, a couple of additional work you have to do, that's fine. But again, most of your generic things or most of the things are carried out by the autopilot. All right, so let's see how this form is created. So one is I got the name, I got the age, I got the nationality. Now what I want this nationality field to come on the top rather than at the bottom. So what I can do on the left side, I will click on this basic details page. Okay. And here I'll select the containers. You can see now it is getting highlighted in red in color. There you can see it. Now I will select this. So when you select, remember the red highlight should appear. Okay. When you select a button or a label or a field or a container, the red icon should appear. Now it has appeared. I'm going to now drag this and put it here. Okay. So this looks pretty okay. Now I want to see the view. Click on the main page. You see how it is appearing. Now this gender, let me again click on the basic details container. You can click anywhere, and then here if you see, I don't want user gender. Okay, I'll simply say gender. I'll simply say gender. I have made the change. Okay, and then here let's see what are the options it has considered. So in the list resource, if you click on this, see, if you simply click on this, it will bring up this male, female, others. Okay, looks good. Similar way in the nationality, there's a list it has automatically created. You don't have to define it. Earlier we used to write it. Now it is, you can see select nationality, United States, Canada. So it has kept few names. You need more country names, you can still add them, keep on adding them. So it has done pretty much a good job. Now let me cancel it. Now if you see the submit and cancel button has appeared, but there is certain a blank area. What I will do, I will select the submit button and I'll keep it here on the top. I'll select the cancel button and keep it here in the top. Looks fine. You want to make it, let's say, go to the style. If you want to make it vertical, something like submit and cancel, or you want to keep it horizontal. So all these small changes you can do. You want to change the title, you go ahead and change the titles. So all this customization, you can pretty well do it over the form. Let's say I'm happy with the form. Let's click on the main page. So this is how it will appear. And if you hit on preview, it is loading the app. So this is how the form has appeared. Let me enter something called John and John Smith, for example, John Smith, and age, let's say I'm entering 28. Nationality, you can see pretty well it has come. So let me select it, United States, and gender. So gender, I'm selecting male, and I'm going to hit on submit. The moment I'm hitting on submit, okay, what's going to happen? Let me show you. If I go back to the entities and refresh my data service entity, okay, you have opened data services, and here it has created an entity called basic details. If I click on this link here, it tells me these are the fields which it has, like user age, user gender, user name, user nationality, created by. These are the system generated fields, created by, created time, updated by, updated time. So these are the system generated fields. Now if I go to the data, because I have entered one data, you can see it has created an auto-generated ID, user gender male, user age is this, user nationality is United States, user name is this, created by my name, the date and time and everything, it is appearing. So this is one of the, you saw one of the example of how to utilize autopilot in the UiPath App Studio. And of course, there are many things you have to change. For example, you saw the user gender and couple of other things you would like to modify, you do it. But definitely it helps you to give you the basic start, or give you not even basic, more than that, right? It gives you a lot of things created automatically by the autopilot for you, and you can pretty well go and make as many changes as needed further. So the autopilot feature, this is the very first example we saw in the UiPath Studio, and the UiPath App Studio, the autopilot feature. Now let's fix a couple of problems. You see the user gender has not changed. Now possibly what could have gone wrong, let me see it. Let me open the basic details. Okay, and here let's click on the containers, gender, and here we have changed the name here, but there should be something called label. So in the label, let's change it to gender. Okay, click on save, and now let's have a preview. Okay, now you can see it has came properly. Okay, let's enter some other name. Let's say Williams S 38, nationality, let's say United Kingdom, male, submit. And the other thing it should show is the data. So let me refresh the data. So you can see United Kingdom, William S, the new data has been entered. Looks good. Now the question is how the moment you are hitting on submit, it is literally submitting the data. That you can see by highlighting the submit button and click on events. And here clicked on, if somebody is clicking on this, if you click on edit rule, it has already created certain rules for you. So it is going to take the data from the values from that field and going to upload it to the entity, the basic details entity. Right there it's going to upload. So like that you can come back to this form and more additional things. For example, when you hit on submit, it is not clearing the form. So all this basic set of rules you can keep on modifying in the form. Now there is a pretty simple exercise for you. You should complete this exercise and comment in the comment section of this video if you have completed this exercise. Create a user-friendly exam registration form with fields for full name, email, phone number, date of birth. See, date of birth, gender, we should have a drop down male, female, and other. Include state selection. Okay, like we saw different states of your, for example, you are in a given state. So you are in a given country, you have different states. Select the state. Exam name, exam date, preferred exam center. You can provide a drop down values. You can provide that in the prompt. And mode of exam, you can have a radio button, online and offline. Allow ID proof upload. So you should also allow to upload their ID proof in this format, PDF, JPG, PNG. And capture educational details, qualification, institute name, year of passing as a drop down, educational details you would like to capture. Add buttons, submit which saves the data, cancel clears the form, and preview or review before submission. Ensure validation for required fields, email format, numeric phone numbers. Okay, these are the validation it should have. Design should be clean, responsive, and accessible. So you can add few more things into the prompt, pretty sure, but the goal is this: you are creating the exam registration form using the UiPath apps autopilot feature. I'll be very much interested to see how many people have tried this particular exercise and have commented in the comment section of the video. Next, we are going to create an app for employee onboarding. For this, I'll go back to UiPath apps. Let me open it. And we are going to use the generate autopilot feature, generate with autopilot feature, and start creating an app. So here I'll give a basic prompt. I'll say create an app for employee onboarding having options to upload the government IDs. Okay, so this is what I have given. So now with this simple prompt, if I hit on send, let's see what happens. Okay, you can try out with various prompts and see how the autopilot is responding to you. Let's see. Now it is initializing. It is also, if you see, it is also generating the entities. Entities is nothing but your data service, your, the thing, it's like a table. So you can see it has created an employee onboarding form, full name, email, phone number, start date, upload, government ID. So this is the simple form it has created for me. And here it also has an option to drop file to upload here. For example, let me click on preview. Let's see how it appears. Okay. So for example, let me enter John Smith and let me enter some email ID, john.s@tests.com. I'll enter some fake phone number, some start date. Okay. And you can upload some document. Okay. I'm simply uploading some document. Okay. And then I'm hitting on submit. Now, what would happen by this is if I go back and look at the entity. So here, if you see, these are the entities. And here, if I go to the data just now I submitted got uploaded. So this is another thing you can try it out using the autopilot feature in the UiPath apps. The next interesting feature is creating an app from a image. So I have an image from which we are going to create an app. Let's see how it works. On my screen, I first of all opened a Word document and created a simple form. Vendor onboarding form, vendor information, company name, business type, vendor ID, tax ID, XYZ. So I've created a simple form in the Word document. Okay. Now I have saved this document. Coming back to UiPath apps. Here, if I try to open the attachment and I'm trying to provide the Word document which I've created, for example, docx. Now this might requires your document understanding, license and things like that, and it throws an error. Could not process the provided file. Please check if your tenant has document understanding enabled, if you have sufficient AI units, XYZ. Okay. So the other things, what it is actually works, if you read this, drop a PDF image or describe the app you would like to create. So it is currently enabled for any kind of a PDF images or images that you can transfer. So the alternate for me is to save this as a image. So what we will do, I'm going to use the snipping tool. Okay. And I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to I'm taking this much of information. Okay. And I'm going to save this as vendor onboarding form one. Okay. Form one. So I'm going to save this. Now, once you have done, let's go back to apps. Here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this attachment option. And in my documents, let's look for this form one. I'm going to click on open. Now you see it has accepted the PNG format or the image format. So now let's see what happens. I have given a form and let's see how the autopilot feature is automatically going to generate the form for us. Okay, so layout generated, pretty good, works pretty fast. Okay. Vendor onboarding form, generating the entities. That means your database is getting created behind the scene and setting up rules. Pretty good. Now, if you see vendor, let's click on preview and see it how it has appeared. Loading your app. So you can see vendor onboarding form, vendor information, company name, business type, vendor ID, tax ID, number, contact information, primary contact name, email address, phone number, website, right? Business address, city, okay, bank name, account number, Swift code, and things like that, right? Based on your demand, you can create a document, have a PNG format, and then upload it to the autopilot feature and allow it to create an app for you. And you do rest of the modification or customization as needed, setting up the rules and things like that. And it also, behind the scene, it also has created the database, or you can say, or kind of a, imagine it as an Excel, right? And where you have all the different fields. Now, one thing to note here, this attachment feature is actually using your document understanding to convert the image into a digital format, understand what you have written in there, and then convert that to an app. So on an enterprise scale, it might be consuming your AI units, or the document understanding AI units that you might have, it might be consuming. So you can always refer the documentation. Now let's utilize this form and try to enter details and see where the problem is and try to fix them. Okay. So for example, company name, I will simply put some fake details here, automate with Rakesh test, business type test, vendor ID 123456. Okay. I'll enter a few number, tax ID, I'll enter some numbers, primary contact name Rakesh, email ID at the rate. See, if I leave it like this, it is having a validation. Let's say AW or automate with Rakesh test.com, something like that. All are fake details I'm just entering for testing purpose. Now phone number, let me enter, let's say 12345678910. Now invalid input, enter a value doesn't confirm the pattern. So somewhere it is not accepting. Let me try 12345678910. So that means here the autopilot has entered some kind of an expression which is not allowing me to enter a Indian phone number. Now let's see what is wrong here. Let me go back, and you can open the form, click on any of the containers. Let's say I'm clicking on the phone number. Click on the phone number, and here under general, check, there is an expression which is written. Okay, do you see the expression? Now this expression, what it means, if you click on this expression, it tells you it can accept 0 to 9. It's a regular expression. The first should be three numbers, hyphen, then you should write another three number, hyphen, then you should write your phone numbers. Now this may not be all the users would be aware of this, right? So for example, if I enter the phone number again in that field, let's see how it works. So there are many small things to learn. Okay, so let it open, and in the phone number, for example, if I'm typing, let's say 258 hyphen 654 hyphen, I'm entering some random numbers. Okay, now see, this is accepted. Now not everybody would be aware of it. So how I make the changes? Now to make the changes, you definitely have to make change of the regular expression. Now you may Google it, you may use the ChatGPT or something like that to get an expression. However, you already have a feature here. Just click on this icon and type create an regular expression to accept 10-digit phone number in any format. Specifically, make it suitable for Indian phone numbers. So based on your need, you can simply type this and allow it to generate a regular expression for you. So it has generated a regular expression. Okay. So if you understand this regular expression, plus 91S0091789, okay, it has written an expression. Let's matter of trying this out. Save, go to preview, and let's see if it is accepting in a way I want. Okay, so phone number, let's say I'm entering 12345678910. Okay, I've entered, so it is accepted. Now if I write a +91, still it's accepting. Okay, if I enter one more number, then it is invalid number. So now it is in an acceptable format. So this way you can come back and make the changes to the expression. And the good thing is you also utilize the autopilot feature available here to generate your expressions as you need. Next, let's see some of the interesting features available within UiPath Studio. The autopilot features within UiPath Studio. Let's have a look. So I am currently using the Studio version 2025 0.161 Community License Edition. So now here, if you open any project, let's say you have created a process and you're opening one of the process. The very first feature that you notice, it is going to tell you generate with autopilot. And also on the right side, you might see this button, autopilot button, where you have this autopilot feature. Let me show you a very simple and interesting feature that this autopilot is capable of. For example, if I click on this generate with autopilot, on the top you see a box appearing. And here let me type something. For example, ask user for two numbers and print the sum. So I gave some natural language and I have asked the autopilot, okay, I need this automation, help me with this. Now all I'm going to do, hit on generate. Okay, now let's wait for a minute. We are busy building your sequence. This process may take a while. In the meantime, feel free to continue editing. So just wait for a few minutes. Now you can see it didn't even take a minute. It happened very fast. Now this is how the preview has appeared. Display input dialog for first number, display input dialog for second number, calculate the sum of the two numbers, log the sum. So I'm going to hit on confirm. Now look at it. The moment you hit on confirm, it's going to literally add those activities that you might have to spend little time to generate this. Imagine you can ask for a bigger workflow. Right now, let's start with a very simple example. Now what is happening here, if you see, display input dialog for first number, it has written the annotation also. Look at it. Input first number. Please enter the first number. There's a text box which will appear and the first number variable is created for you. See, almost all of your work has been done by the autopilot. Display input dialog for second number. Please enter the second number, and then it has created a variable. Then there is a sum. Now look at the expression it has written. Convert to integer, because those would come in the string format. So it is converted and doing the sum. Pretty good. And then it is logging it. So let's run this, save it, and let me run this. So it has prompted me something. Please enter the first number. Okay, let me enter 10. Click on OK. Please enter the second number. Let me enter 5. Okay. And the execution, let's go back to the studio because it's using a log activity. If I go to the output, see the sum is 15. It has logged it. So you can see this is just a very sample example. There's no boundary. You can try out generating as complex things as you want. You can try out the autopilot feature. Now one thing is pretty evident here. It is going to save a lot of time, lot of development time with the AI capabilities. Next, on a technical standpoint, I'm also going to show you how you can enable or disable this autopilot feature for everybody in your organization. So let's say I would like to give this autopilot feature to some of the users at the moment to try out. And then if it's all okay, then I would like to release it to all of the developers in my company or something like that, where you would like to have a control on who should use and who should not this autopilot feature for various reasons. Okay, if that is your question, I'm going to answer this here. Now to control anything, it's called a policy, right? Like in a company, we have a policy. You should not do XYZ, you should do XYZ. This is a policy. You should wear an ID card. Similar way, if you want to set up policy that who should use what, so you have to go to something called UiPath Automation Ops. Okay, so log into your cloud.uipath.com and go to automation ops. Now, once you go to automation ops, I'm going to show you here. I have already, there is something called policy you have to create. Okay, I have already created few things. I was trying out few things. Now, let me show you how it works. Let me delete the policy. Now, what is this policy? I'm going to tell you what is this policy is all about, how it is set, things like that. I'm going to show you. Okay, the policy is gone. Now, here, what is this policy? To understand the policy in a better way, you better go to your studio. Okay, go back to your studio. Click on home and click on help. Click on home and click on help. Now here you see something called generate governance file. This is not really required for the 2025 edition because autopilot by default would be available for you. But in case you would like to control as a policy, this I'm going to teaching this for a knowledge purpose. Okay. Now here you see modern policy. There is something called modern policy. If I click on this modern policy, now it is going to download. I'm going to keep it in the downloads. And there is a zip file uipath.modern.policies.zip. Okay, let's save this. Now let's go back Windows E and I'll go to downloads and I'll see the zip file is downloaded. Yes. Now let me right click on the zip file and extract all. And I'm going to extract it here. I'm going to show you what is this zip file contains. So this zip file contains two JSON files. The very first JSON file is for business users or the Studio X users, citizen developers. Okay, this is for the Studio X. Now, the other one, UiPath policy development JSON. This is for your UiPath Studio. So, what are this policy? I'm going to show you. So, this JSON contains certain set of rules. For example, if I'm going to search for AI, okay, so you see there is a JSON value written here. Enable generative AI is equals to true. What is it? Enable generative AI is equals to true. That means I can use the generative AI feature. What if I make it false and apply the policy? That means I'll not be able to use it. So these are the keys which governs or controls what features you can use, what happens in your studio, all these things. Okay, so you saw the JSON file. Now let's go back to our automation ops. Okay, so I'm on my automation ops. Here, how do you create a policy? So you can download that JSON and upload it here. That is one way. I can upload and select the file that I've created. I saved, I enabled, I made it false and enable and save it and upload it here. That is one way. Currently, you also have a policy you can directly create from here. So how will I do it? I'll simply click on add product policy. And I'm going to select the product where I would like to apply some control. Studio Web, Studio Pro, Studio. So let me select Studio. And here I'm going to say Studio Policy. Automate with Rakesh. Something, you wanted to give a title. And I am going to click on add. So now what would happen? The default policies that the product has, it is going to show you. So the policy name is this, availability days 30. Okay, number of days for which a policy cache will be applied in. Okay, so these are few things. And then policy description you can type. Here under the design tab, there are many sections. Enforce analyzer before publish. So you want to enforce your developer before they publish, it will enforce the analyzer, it will automatically run. So all these things kind of a control you can take care. You can apply the policy. I'll show you. Now here we are more interested on the generative AI. So scroll down, you will see enable AI activity session. This is one. I'm going to disable it for the moment. Okay. And I'll go, there is another thing called enable generative AI just for learning purpose. Okay. You don't have to literally try it, but this is for a learning purpose. So let's say enable generative AI, I have disabled. And I'm going to hit on save. Okay, and once the policy is created, whatever you have enabled and you are giving somebody an access, or you disabled and you are applying this policies to someone. So let's say I have disabled it here. Now if I go back to the studio, in the studio now the autopilot feature is enabled. Do you see autopilot? Hi Rakesh, how can I help you? XYZ it's asking. So now the autopilot feature is enabled. Now let me go back to the automation ops. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on deployment and I'm going to click on user. I have in the policy, I have disabled generative AI and I want to apply to this guy, Rakesh. So this guy should not be able to use this generative AI feature. Currently he's using. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll go to users. I'm going to click on deployment for user. I'm going to type this guy's name, whom I would like to control, whom I would like to give access or I don't like to give access, both the ways. And then I would select the product here. What is the product? Is Studio. I'm going to select the product, use the drop down and apply this policy. So this were all inheriting the tenant policy, the default policies. So I'm now using this policy, Studio policy AWR, save. Okay. Now I saved it. Successfully added user Rakesh Behra. Just refresh it. Now this policy applying can happen immediately. Sometime it might take some time. Okay, depends. So mostly it can happen immediately. So let me, what I have to do now. Now I can still use the autopilot feature. You see, it is still there. So this policy will be applicable when I close the studio. If you want to reflect it immediately, and I'm trying to open the studio once again. See, and let's wait. Sometimes it may not happen immediately. Sometimes you have to do two times. Depends. Okay, system, there are many factors. So now what I'm doing, I have closed the studio and reopened the studio, and I have applied a policy that autopilot should not be enabled for this user. Now in this case, if I go back, okay, I still see the autopilot, but let me click on this. Let me click on autopilot. Now what is happening here? Autopilot not available. This feature has been disabled by your organization. You see, this has been disabled. So now, for example, if I try out some activity, let's say assign activity I'm trying. Okay. So earlier, if you used to click on here, there used to be a generative AI feature. Now it is not available. Okay. Now see, now I want it. By the way, I want it. I don't. Okay. So how do I get it back? So let's go back. The simplest way, you can try removing the user from the policy. Okay, I will try that first. So I'll simply delete this guy. Delete, okay, and refresh it. Refresh it. This is one way. If I delete the policy that was applied to Rakesh should be removed. Then what I will do, I'll go back to the studio. So I've closed the studio. Let me open the studio. Okay. Now let's see what happens, because I've removed this guy. Now if I click on automate with Rakesh and click on autopilot, it still have not synced. Okay, so it has appeared. You see, it has appeared. Yeah, good. So you can see autopilot has appeared for me. So this is one way you can control things. Okay, because I've not applied that disable policy to certain people. That means by default I'm getting the autopilot feature. Now if I'm using assign activity and see the AI feature is available. Let's say I would like to give some command, convert a date to string format, and just natural language, you type it and hit on this button and you can see date time dot now dot to string. So you get help in terms of coding. It is literally helpful for the developers rather than you going onto the internet trying to search try to build an expression on your own. So this AI would actually enable you to do your development in a much smoother way with taking less time, and it will make you more impactful and more, skillful, that you have lot many things at your on the studio itself and you can get benefit of things. Now let's do some interesting exercise on the autopilot feature available in Studio. Back onto my Studio, I'm going to visit a site called rpachallenge.com. Okay, and I'm copying the link, and here in the generate autopilot feature, I'll click on this and I'll type something. Okay, so let me say visit, okay, the URL this, and uh, try to create a workflow which can enter random values in the respective fields. Okay, so what is this? So there is something called rpchallenge.com. You may be already aware. It randomly changes. For example, the moment I submit, the fields keep on changing. If you see, the field values are the same: email, last name, first name. However, the position of this keeps on changing. Okay, so I want to use the autopilot feature to create a workflow. Now, prior to this, what I have done, I have created an object repository. Okay, object repository I have created for all the different fields. Now, in case you are not aware of what is object repository, there is a great video on YouTube. You can watch them. You know how to create object repository, how it works. So I've created the object repository for all the fields. This is basically let the workflow know where the element is and what to be done there. Okay, these are the element indicators. So now I have written some prompt and I'm going to hit on generate. Okay, so intelligently it will understand there are object repositories, there is a site which it has to go, there's a URL, so it will automatically generate a flow for you. Okay, now let's see, it has created a form, maybe. Oh, okay, it has become pretty long. Let's see. So Chrome rpchallenge.com, type. I have, what is this again? Oh, it has created 2 times. Anyways, let me ignore the second one. Let me keep the first one. It's sometimes, it's a AI. It can generate and provide response in various ways based on my prompt. Again, if I generate, it might, because it's a feature of a AI, right? Cognitive ability of it can prompt in different ways. Anyways, that's okay. So now if you look at Chrome RPA challenge, it has got the URL, pretty good. And then what is this address? So let me type some random address. Let's say test address. What is this field? Company. So I'll say test company. And what is this email? So let me enter test@example.com, for example, and type random value in the first name. Random value first name, maybe let's say John. Okay, and I say last name, let me enter 2, and then the random value for the phone number, let me enter 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, I've entered some number. What is this role in the company? Let's enter manager. Okay, pretty much good. I think one thing which is still missing is, I believe, the click submit, right? Click. So instead of me using this, let me show you how it is done in object repository. Okay, so I'll click on this this one, right click, create a element, and here let me say submit. Okay, now let's indicate element, and this is the element, and validate and confirm, save. So I got an element here. Let me simply drag and drop the element. Okay, and I have to use the click activity for this element. Click, double click. So you can see click activity, everything. So that is the smoothness you get with the object repository. Clear? Now all I have to do is simply run this and see how the autopilot feature is working for us. Let's see. Okay, started entering the address, company name, email, first name, last name, this one, role in company, okay, and submit it. So what it helped? So now to do it manually, you would have taken some time. Now you can imagine a huge workflow can be designed with the help of the Generate Autopilot feature. Let's say you are happy with this. Now after this, you want to do some other set of steps. Okay. For example, you want to click on download Excel, or you want to create one more sequence, for example. How I use the autopilot after this? So you click on autopilot. There's a button here. Okay, just click on this generate sequence. Okay, so here again you get, let's say, create a sequence to add two numbers, and I'm going to click on generate. So you can keep on using the autopilot feature. So just create it, click on confirm. You can see your previous set of sequence that I've created is still preserved, and you have the additional sequence below it. So you can keep on building your set of your sequences with the autopilot feature. I hope this technique was helpful. Next thing, we are going to look at the UiPath Assistant Autopilot feature. You may see this UiPath Assistant Autopilot for everyone, in generally called. It is available from UiPath 2024 10.1 if I remember. So this you would by default find it. However, the very first thing I would like to experiment is how can I disable it or how can I uninstall it. Now this will help you to gain little insights of how everything works for a learning purpose. Now here I logged into cloud.uipath.com. I'll go to admin, and then in the admin, when you select your org on the top, you see a card called AI Trust Layer. I'll go to this card, and then you see something called Autopilot for Everyone. Now this Autopilot for Everyone in this particular tab, I'm going to select the default tenant. Okay, how to enable also I'll show you, don't worry. Because I had already enabled, I just want to uninstall and then enable it again. I'm going to click on uninstall autopilot for everyone. Version 24.10.12. Okay, fine. Now let me uninstall. It is uninstalling the autopilot solution. Fail to uninstall, fail to connect to inside service. Okay, fine. Let me try again. So now you can see it has said autopilot solution uninstalled. So for this, what I did, it was not installing. I quit the UiPath Assistant and tried, it worked. Okay, so once this is done, now if I open UiPath Assistant, now you can see the autopilot is gone. Okay, now here I don't have an option to do anything, you see. Now the thing is, how do I enable autopilot back? Enable autopilot for everyone. That means everybody can see, if they open UiPath Assistant, the users can see the autopilot feature. For that, the steps are, you open cloud.uipath.com, scroll down and look for the automation ops. Okay, you open automation ops, and here you need to click on add product policy. And here there is something called AI trust layer which has to be selected, and I am saying AI trust layer. Let's say I'll give some name. Okay, I'll say automate with Rakesh, and then I'm going to click on add. Now what is important here, this option which is by default when you create a policy, this will be enabled. Enable calls to third-party AI models through AI trust layer. Now what is AI trust layer? AI trust layer ensure that your data is never stored outside of UiPath. nor is it used to train third-party models. So that is the trust layer. You have to enable it to enable autopilot for everyone. Now leave all these options as it is. Enable UI automation feature, enable test manager feature, enable document understanding feature, enable autopilot for everyone. This is important. Disabling cause third-party AI models would prevent users from conversing the autopilot for everyone. So this is very important that this toggle is on and you leave all these options as it is. Okay. Now after this, there is an important option in the models. In the feature toggle, enable input output saving for audit, leave it. Models, there is something called anthropic. This has to be enabled. Okay. Enabling anthropic models means that you agree with their terms. So if you want to go through the terms, you'll go through. And then I'm going to enable for learning and testing purpose. I'm doing it and I'm going to hit on save. Okay. Once you do this, what happens? You would see the AI trust layer that just now you have created will be shown in the automation ops. Now here what I will do, I'll go to this AI trust layer AWR. Let me go one step back. And here I need to deploy. Okay. So once you have created, go to deployment tab. In the deployment tab, this default tenant, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to select the AI trust layer and I will select the policy. That's it. And I'm going to hit on save. Once I do this, if I open UiPath Assistant, you see still it is the same. Even though if I try to quit it and try to reopen it. Okay, let's wait for some time. After you quit, there are many services behind the scene which has to start, which might take few seconds. So you can see still the autopilot is still not enabled. So what should I do? The next thing you have to do, you have to go to the admin tab. Okay, go to the admin tab and here ensure the org is selected and the AI trust layer you are clicking on it. Now go to autopilot for everyone. And here I'm going to select the default tenant, the tenant where you would like to apply it. Now once you've done this, it will give you the option to install autopilot for everyone. I'm going to install autopilot for everyone. It's best if I just quit for the moment while the installations are happening. Not necessary, but I'm just keeping it safe and then install autopilot solution just to avoid any kind of errors. Okay, now let's wait for it to complete the installation. Enable document understanding, enable user license management, enable anthropic models in automation ops. Autopilot solution installed, I got a message. Okay, failed to connect. I don't know why this error is coming, but yeah. So now this is installed. What I will do, I'll again open assistant. Okay, let me open assistant and wait for few minutes for the autopilot to reflect. Okay, now you can see loading something good. This could take few minutes. Say hello to autopilot, your AI productivity partner. Now you can see it has started downloading, setting up, finishing up. So all these things have started. So now you can see it has started. Help me write an agenda for a meeting. Identify a task in my routine. So there are many, like you use a natural language processing models, right? You type something, it responds. Help me plan a trip, schedule a meeting with colleague. You can just keep on experimenting. Okay. So for example, help me write an agenda for my meeting. If I do, it's more of you trying out the feature that is available in the UiPath Assistant called Autopilot for Everyone. You can see it has started. Welcome to an introduction, greet attendees, brief overview of meeting purpose, review. So XYZ, you keep on providing the natural instruction or the prompt, and you see how the Gen AI is responding back to you, right? So that's all with this playlist, and we have learned many things around Autopilot, many features starting from UiPath apps, UiPath Studio, and finally the UiPath Assistant Autopilot feature. This Autopilot feature is also available at many places, which I would try to create another videos based on the topic. Thank you very much for watching. Please do comment and let me know how many of you have completed this entire playlist, and I would love to see them. Please do comment and let me know what else you would like to see in the future videos. Let's meet once again. Thank you for the time being.